Well, Jay, it is June 8th, and we are celebrating something that needs to be celebrated. What are we celebrating today?
This is the anniversary, the fourth anniversary of the standard Islamic narrative, holes in the narrative, S-I-N. Remember what happened 4 years ago? Well, to understand what happened 4 years ago, you're going to have to go back to 2016. Because in 2016, and we're going to put the video up right here.
There is only one Quran, right? And that every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie. You run away from truth. Okay, so there are two Qurans today, right? Two.
More than two Qurans.
More than two? Three Qurans?
More than three Qurans.
More than three? Four Qurans?
There are approximately 26 of the Qurans.
26 different Qurans. Oh, go ahead, start throwing things out. It says they were lied to. Two different readings.
It's the same in Arabic. Read in Arabic.
That's the difference. Look, it's the same. And which has the Dhamma. The difference is between Dhamma and Dhamma. Read it. Read it again.
حتى يقول حتى يقول
Read it again. The prophets fought, but by the time you get to the war, they were killed. That is a huge
attention.
Your faces, Muslim people, your face come here. Come.
You better go. We're going to make it more and more difficult for you. A little girl, maybe about 5'2", came across not one, not two, not four, 26 different Qurans.
I remember.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. And we went down to Speaker's Corner and held them up. And who was standing there, right there, filming us, but Mohammed Hijab. Now remember what happened after he saw what we were doing. He went outside the group and he said, all Muslims, come to me. Don't look at what they're showing you. Don't listen to what they're saying. I'll explain it to you. This is June of 2016.
Wait. Is this the same Mohammed Hijab who've been going around telling everyone about the perfect dot-for-dot, letter-for-letter preservation of the Quran?
That's
that
it.
guy?
Now, why does he have to say that? Why is it perfectly preserved? Because the Quran says that in chapter 85. Chapter 85, verse 21 and 22. But it's not just that. It says it has never changed. That's in chapter 10, verse 15, chapter 18, verse 27. And why does it never change? Because Allah himself guards it in chapter 15, verse 9. So don't get upset with Mohammed Hijab. He has to say that. Everybody has said that.
He's being a good Muslim.
Being a good Muslim.
Being a good Muslim.
Obviously something happened though in 2016.
What?
He didn't say much, did he? He didn't have much to tell them, did he?
No.
So 4 years later, he needed help, didn't he?
Yeah.
So who did he go to?
He went to Sheikh Yasir Qadhi. Because the interesting thing that happened was, for years you got the Dawah fans, they go to their Dawah guy. The Dawah guy tells them perfect preservation right down to the letter. They believe that. A Christian tells them otherwise. They don't listen to the Christian. Who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to a Christian, you're going to listen to your Dawah guy. So they listen to the Dawah guy. And that went back and forth until it was actually put in their faces. And what's amazing is these same Dawah fans will go back to their Dawah guy. Hey, you said perfect letter for letter, dot for dot preservation, but she actually showed us the copies. What's going on here? They keep going to him, and eventually he had to solve the problem.
Why him specifically? Because he is the only one that's got a doctorate from Yale University on this very subject.
He literally wrote the book on the sciences of the Quran.
1995, he got his doctorate. So we're now in 2020, so we're talking about 25 years later. He should know what he's talking about, don't you think?
And his dad, Yasir Qadhi, was one of the people who popularized. I have Dawah books by Yasir Qadhi saying there has never been one letter's difference between any two Qurans in the history of the Quran. So he was raised, Yasir Qadhi was raised to believe this.
And he said it many times. In fact, we're going to show you right here a clip of where he's saying it over and over and over again. Now,
their Quran is exactly the same. The Quran shall remain uncorrupted, untouched, and unchallenged until the day of judgment.
So he comes to him hoping that maybe he can answer. And you phoned me up and says, Jay, you got to watch this. But you didn't know what was going to happen, did you? I didn't know what was going to happen. And we were shocked by what happened. What happened next?
That was one of the greatest moments in the history of dawah. Apologetics, polemics, everything all rolled into one. This was Mohammed Hijab trying to, he really seemed to think that Yasir Qadhi is going to fix all of this.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Yasir Qadhi. This is the man. He's the expert of the experts. He will explain how somehow there's just one Quran. He's gonna make it clear.
So what did he do first?
He
put out his hand. Remember, he put out his hand. He said, listen, this is a blank sheet of paper. Tell me, which is the one that you're going to put on there? Which is the one that's the eternal Quran? Which is the one that was revealed to Muhammad? Which is the one that Uthman wrote in 652? Tell me, which one? Is it the Hafs? Is it the Warsh? Is it the Kisai? Before he could answer, before he could stop his sentence, what did Yasir Qadhi say?
It's not an easy question.
That's right.
Which it should be. If there's one Quran perfectly preserved, that should be the easiest question in the history of humanity. And it wasn't. But yeah, you saw in that interview, Yasir Qadhi basically begging Mohammed Hijab.
Turn off the camera. Remember that?
It. Yeah, I'll talk to you afterwards. Please stop. This is not wise, Yafi. It's not wise. They're going to be hearing this out there. They're going to be hearing all of this. And this is when just by Mohammed Hijab continuing to press him, because Hijab clearly thought, no, I need to keep pushing. I need to keep pushing. Then he'll explain how all this fits together and there's only been one Quran. And just didn't work. And Yasir Qadhi ends up
Before that, what did he say first? He said, remember, Al-Jazari, who is the world authority on the Qira'at, he wrote 80 books in the 1500s, and he never came to any conclusion. For the last 1,000 years, he said, the Muslim scholars don't know what to do with this question. If they don't know what to do with this question, what do you think I'm going to have to do with this question? And then he said one interesting thing. When he says, well, this should be an easy question. Is this what happened to you when you were at Yale University? Did you have a crisis of faith? He said, no, not a crisis of faith, crisis of knowledge. And then he did a very interesting thing. He held the Quran up and he says, we have a respect for this Quran. We have a red line beyond which we don't go. There are certain questions we don't ask of this book. But at Yale University, there are no red lines.
Yes, the non-Muslim scholars don't have those lines.
And what did he say about the Western scholars?
He said he said, as Muslims, when we raise a question and someone gives us an answer, we just accept it.
Right.
And he said, the Western academics, they'll keep pushing. And then he made this amazing admission. He said, and we know they're right because they're quoting our sources. So he's acknowledging that Muslims are accepting answers on why they have all these differences in the Quran.
What did he say about Muhammad Hijab? He says, you in the East are looking at you as if like the emperor with no clothes.
Oh yeah.
You've got a real problem in here. And then he gave his classic line. What was the classic line?
The standard narrative has holes in it.
Okay, David, what standard narrative?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of us in apologetics, we started using that phrase to make fun of the idea of the perfect preservation, as if we're talking about the perfect preservation of the Quran. He's saying there are holes in that narrative. That's not. He was arguing much more extreme. He was talking about whether Muslim scholars actually have some sort of explanation of these different Qurans in terms of ahruf and kirat and so on. And he's saying, Muslim scholars accept these answers, but if you listen to the Western academics and you figure out they're actually quoting your own sources to show that your explanations don't work, standard narrative has holes in it.
Standard what narrative? Standard Islamic narrative. Now what does that spell? Sin. Sin has holes in it. We've known that all the time, haven't we? So these are another hole that we're going to look at. Sin, the standard Islamic narrative is full of holes. This was not good enough for Mohammed Hijab. He got upset. He put his hand out a second time. Remember when he put it out, Fani? Well, 28 minutes later, he put his hand out a last time. He says, okay, listen, I need an answer. Which is that Quran? You listen, there are 30 now, not just 4. There are 30. Which is it? And what did Yasir Qadhi say at the very end? Finally, he had to give in.
Not an easy.
This is not easy. But he says, listen, they're all the Quran.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, you mean a little bit of Hafs, a little bit of what? Yes, a little bit of Hafs, a little bit of Wash. Why don't you put some Kisai in there? We'll get other, even get that and just mix them around. That's the Quran. Now that's when I started clapping. Because Yasir Qadhi doesn't know what we know. We know that we have looked at these, because we've had them now for at least 10 years. And we have looked between them. Now, I'm just going to show you two right here. These are the two most popular ones. This is the Hafs, there's the Warsh. This is memorized by about 3% of the world's Muslim population. This one here is memorized by 93% of the world's Muslim population. This is the one that's now the standard for us today. Why? Because of what they did in Cairo 100 years ago. What did they do in Cairo 100 years ago?
No, they tried to standardize the Quran. And
Why?
I think they spent 7 years working because of the differences.
Because of the high school students who came and they were coming to class and they were supposed to write standardized tests, but every one of them had 30 different answers. So they went to Mohammed ibn al-Hussein al-Haddad and they asked him to just choose one. He chose this one. Why do you think he chose it? Do you know, David, why do you think he chose that one?
I know that the Hafs version had become popular because of the Ottoman Empire.
It's the Ottoman Empire. They were the ones that had all the manuscripts. They were the ones that were changing all of these manuscript variants just so that they were standardized to this canonical text. That's why Dan Brubaker, who has found 4,000 of them, all of them are now standardized to this text. He had to choose that text. What did they do with the other 29?
Didn't they send them to the bottom of the Nile or
They
something?
took them out into a boat and dumped them into the Nile, thinking that would solve the problem.
Well, they burned them the first time, so why not drown them this time?
They did not consider that Hatun was going to come about another 100 years later. And our good friend Hatuntash, just 5'2", she found not one, not two, 26 of them by the time we were there in 2016. She has now found all 30, and you're saying another 7, because in between 1924 and 1936, they changed it 7 times because they found all kinds of grammatical mistakes. That became the narrative. That became the standard for all of Egypt. By 1985, the Ibn Saud family saw how successful it was for Egypt. They made it the standard work for the whole world. Now, how many people who are watching were alive in 1985? If you're raising your hand, you are older than the canonical text. Feel pretty old. That means the canonical text is pretty new. That happened on June 8, 2020. What then happened on November 26? Remember, Yasir Qadhi decided to go on the offense. And he confronted you, and he confronted me, and he confronted...
Because I was trying to think of the order of things. I know, Hijab took his... First they started editing it and taking those parts out, then Hijab took his version.
Okay, let's do that. What happened after about 2 weeks after this went up? All the comments, did you look at the comments, David?
Oh, it was Muslims saying this is destroying our faith. What are you doing here?
I'm leaving Islam. Hundreds of Muslims. I'm leaving in Islam, and my blood is going to be on your shoulders. They had to shut down those comments within 2 weeks.
Yeah, so they shut down comments, then one of them edited that part out of the discussion, so he went in there and that part was out. Then one of them took it down from his, and then
they both took him down.
And not only that, people who reposted or even reposted portions of it, Yasir Qadhi started filing false copyright strikes. Like, you can use other people's material by fair use if you're adding commentary. He knew he was filing bogus copyright strikes just for quoting any part of that. And then, of course, he.
Do you have this? Do you have this interview?
Yep.
Do I have it? Does Hatun have it?
Yep.
Can all of you get it? We have it. We've preserved it. So after this, I'm going to put up on my site.
It's better preserved than the Quran.
I'm going to put it up on my site, all 28 minutes of it, so all of you can see it in another video. You're going to put it up on your site as well.
We're going to do this every June 8th because of what happened on 2020. This is the 4th anniversary. But I want to then now go back to what happened on November 26th in June 2020.
Obviously, Yasir Qadhi was having great problems because he had to delete that off his site. He could not respond to that. Till today, he's still not been able to respond to that. Who did he go after? Why did he go after you, me, and Dan Brubaker?
Because he likes us so much?
Yeah, well, he does. I mean, he called us this word right here.
Ultra-crepidarians.
We're called the ultra-crepidarians. There it is, folks.
He called us a lot more than that. I think he called me an repulsive, repugnant, evil, vile jerk.
That's right.
And a lot of other things. But yeah, ultra-crepidarians, that was the good one.
This is the word. Do you all know what this means? Somebody who knows nothing about what they're talking about. Who do you think is the ultra-crepidarian here? It looks like Yasir Qadhi, who knew nothing, who would not answer the question, and he said, turn off the cameras and talk to me afterwards. We'll do a deep dive. Remember he said that? We'll do a deep dive. Yeah. But for 25 years, he said, I've never even ever talked about this ever since he got his doctorate. So here's the man who doesn't know how to answer this question. He's saying that for 1,000 years, none of the scholars can answer, and he's calling us the ultra-crepidarians.
Yeah, and not the entire Ummah who believed the lie, not Mohammed Hijab who thought there was going to be some great explanation. It's just amazing because we were the ones who were saying it all along. We were the ones who were right the entire time.
The entire
and
time.
You had Muslims who knew about the differences in the Quran, but who were lying about it. And then you had the Ummah and the Dawah guys who didn't know about it. They're all ignorant. We were right the entire time.
The whole time.
At the end of the day, when they finally admit we were right the entire time, we're the dumb ones and we're the bad guys.
You know, we have a little thing to saying when we're little kids, I'm the rubber, you're the glue, bounce off me and stick on you. It looks like it's bounced right off us, right back onto Yasir Qadhi, right back onto Mohammed Hijab. Now, we're going to do something right now. We're going to celebrate. This is the 4th anniversary, folks. We're going to eat a little bit of our cake. We have a little bit of our cake in our plate. Happy birthday, dear Yasir Qadhi and Cairo Quran. Happy birthday to you.
Just wish Yasir Qadhi and Mohammed Hijab could be here to celebrate this.
Oh, they are. This is going to be sent to them. This is to you.
Thank you,
Yasir
guys.
Qadhi, Mohammed
Thank you
Hijab.
for doing our work for us.
God bless you.